Okay, well I don't see the screen coming on there for that. There or something. Well, hopefully that'll work. At least you have some audio. So a few things. Just setting up the file correctly in Illustrator. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to show you a little bit of just how to create a grid and a grid using guidelines in Illustrator. I want to make sure you guys are using layers appropriately as well. And I'll show you very quickly how to create a clipping mask, which may come in handy for this. So I'm just going to go into File and New. And it should come up with a dialog box here. You want to make sure that you have the right kind of paper selected. In this case, tabloid is 11 by 17. The right orientation. Because the site, and this is these are also available on BB Learn. And this is the site. You can maybe make out the lines here, the property lines, are just about an 11 by 17 sheet at a 16th inch scale. And so I'd like everyone to work with this with north up being this way, so essentially to work in a landscape format. So it corresponds directly with this. So that's set up. RGB mode is fine. You could change it to CMYK. That's going to be a bit higher quality printer, but also the file size starts to get a little bit big. I'm just going to leave it at RGB. The raster effects here, 150 pixels per inch is also fine. I think that's suitable for printing. Unless you wanted a higher quality, you could bump it up. So everything else looks okay. So I'll just hit OK. So now a few things once we have this sheet laid out. One thing that you can see right away is that I don't have any rulers that are on the edges of the screen. So I need to turn those on. So for that, I will go into View, down to Rulers, and I'll just select Show Rulers. So now that's going to give me rulers relative. Typically it's going to default 0, 0 being at the upper left hand corner. If it's not, or if you want to have that origin be somewhere else, you can just click on this corner and hold it down, and you can move that 0, 0 wherever you'd like it. In this case, I would recommend just keeping it at the corner, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And what's nice about Illustrator with the newer version is that it has essentially some object snap, so it's going to recognize intersection and edges and so forth. So that's fairly helpful. So the next thing, since I have the inches set up, I can start thinking about at a 16th inch scale to set up that grid. So what you might want to do is just create some guidelines to achieve that. So first what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to go into layers. Right now there's just a single layer. I'm going to use several other layers. So I'm going to go down here, create new layer. I'm going to create about 5 of them. Then I'm going to go to layer 1. I'm just going to double click, and I'm just going to call this guides. So all my guidelines I want to be on that layer. At times when you have a lot of things on the overall layout, the guidelines can just be visually too much, and sometimes you need to shut those off. So I always put those on their own layer. And I'm just double clicking here to change the names. I'm going to call this one image main. You don't have to call them exactly this, but these tend to be fairly helpful. I'm going to call this one just lines. This one I'm going to call text body. So that'll be basically the descriptive text. And then this will be text title. So whatever layer I want to be on as a current layer, I just want to make sure that that's highlighted in the case that that's how it works in Illustrator. So guidelines. So here I'm in the right layer, and basically to create guides, all I'm going to do is go to the ruler. I'm going to click down and just drag down a line. So if I click down and I drag a line down, I'm just going to line them up on inches now instead of the 12-foot module. there's one guide. And I can just keep doing that over and over and over again. So this is really good for aligning text or aligning images or aligning anything. In this case, I'm just using it to note the base grid. I'm not going to do them all. And I can do them in both directions. Oops. So that's fairly easy to set up there. Okay. So then to create a line, first I want to make sure I'm on the right layer. So I'm going to go to my lines layer, highlight that. I'm going to deselect that. Now these guidelines are still, I can still select those if I drag a window across them and move them around. Maybe I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer. So now I can't move them. And so then you're able to draw a line. Let me get back on my lines layer. And basically I'm going to click down and hold and drag a line. Again, if you want it to be perfectly vertical or horizontal, I can hold my shift key down for that, or you can get 45 degrees as well. But if you want it to be free, you can just click it there. Now, then it's important to realize, because it's easy if there's no, right now, over here in terms of the fill and the stroke, so this square without the hole in it is the fill color. The other one is the stroke, so that'll be the thickness of the line. Right now there's nothing selected, so it's just that selection without any other graphic information around it. So I want to make sure that that has a thickness. And so here I'm just going to click on the default fill and stroke. The fill is going to default to white and the stroke will default to black. And I can go up to the top once I have this selected and I can create a thicker line or what have you, and so I can start changing some of those characteristics. Now the selection tools, keep in mind that the different kinds of selection tools here. Here I just have the general selection tool. So if I select that object, I can rotate, I can scale it, so I can do those sorts of things. If I have the direct selection tool and I want to just change the angle of this, say for example, without distorting it, I just want that vector to be a little bit different, I want to make sure to select on the line itself, not on the end of the line. You're going to notice these little grips on the end, these little anchors are empty. That means I can select that and I can change the line however I'd like. I'm going to create another line, and automatically it's going to find that anchor point, so I can start there if I wanted to and keep creating these lines. Now right now these are separate lines. Say for example you were drawing these and all of a sudden you realize that you wanted these to be joined. Well, I can just drag my window, select them all, I can right click, there's grouping options there, but also I can join them. Now it's a closed shape. So say for example I wanted that fill color to be something else like red. So now it's a closed shape as opposed to just 3 lines. Then I can come back to the selection tool and still distort it accordingly. I can also add an anchor point. So if I go here to this tool here, add anchor point, you may have to hold down on the little corner to get the right tool, but if I add one, I can just select right on the line where I want that anchor point to be, and I've just added another anchor point. So then I can deselect it, select the line, and now I can start distorting with that, creating a unique shape. Okay, the last thing I wanted to show you quickly is to make a clipping mask. Again, zooming around, I find oftentimes I just want to scroll in and out, hold my control key down, or I'm sorry, alt key, different programs, different control or alt. This one's alt. I can zoom in and out with my scroll wheel. Okay, so say I wanted to bring an image in. Here are some of the actual image fragments that you guys are going to be working with. So I'll just bring like this one in. So I'm just going to drag and drop it onto the sheet. Now, right now, it's on whatever layer was current. So I go back to layer, it's on lines. I don't want that to be on lines. Perhaps I want it to be on image main. So I can take this, once it's selected, I can take this little box that's really highlighting the selection, just drag it to the right layer, as long as that layer is unlocked, and I can have it be on that layer. So say, for example, I wanted to clip out like this particular area of that image. And this is without using Photoshop. You can obviously do some of this in Photoshop, but you'll change the image, I guess, throughout its use. So maybe there's just a portion of it that you want to use as an example. So I'm going to select this shape, and I'm going to give it the red line across there, which means there's no fill. I'm just going to drag it over that image, perhaps distort it a little bit to line up with some of what I wanted to work with. See, it was already selected, so I have to make sure to select it on the line so I can make some of these distortions. So say I just wanted this area. The space bar is going to give me my hand tool. Okay, so say I wanted this to clip out that particular area of that image. So what I'll do is I'll select both of those objects, and you can either right click to get to make clipping mask, or you can go into object, down to clipping mask, make, and it'll automatically clip out the rest of that image. And then if I continue to distort this using that same direct selection tool, it's going to still understand the image that's behind. Okay? All right, guys.